Well, welcome back to our next episode of The Awakened Stranger. And today we're sitting with Jennifer. And here in a second, I'll let Jennifer announce herself and introduce herself. Let us know who she is, what she's gone through in life, and some of the things that have happened for her through her awakening that's led us to this point in this conversation today. So, again, thank you all for listening. Thank you for the time that you share with us. And with that, Jennifer, I'd love to hear more about you and give us a little introduction to who you are and kind of what's led you through your life and to this point.
Wow. That's a loaded question, I think. There's so much. I'm 52 years old. I just don't even know where to start because I think everything that's happened in my life has led me to where I am now. So, I mean, if you want to start from the beginning, you get to start from the beginning. I actually wrote a whole book about the thing. But anyway, but regarding what you're going through with the awakening, the name that we're using, I guess, is back in 23. I was pretty in a rough time. I was drinking a lot, a bottle of wine with Xanax on occasion, and I had a really terrible lung condition that I've been dealing with since 2012. Wow. And I was trying to stop drinking, and I stopped drinking. And I stopped and I started again. And this one day, I was at a conference and in Fairbanks, which was about away from my home in Anchorage at the time, and I went straight to the bar. I'd been sober for 3 months, but I decided I was going to drink again, and I got just loaded. And that night, I said, something's got to change. Here you're on oxygen, you're carrying oxygen, you're drinking. What are you doing, Jennifer? You're just, your marriage is in shambles, your family is, what is. And so I called a friend of mine, a woo-woo friend, I would call her back then is what I did. And I was like, something's got to change. Like, send me to a yoga studio, a rehab, whatever, but something's got to change today. And I just happened to got 20 grand in the bank from an IRS tax return. And she said, well, there's a Joe Dispenza retreat in 3 weeks in October in Florida. And I was like, okay, fine. And I bought my trip and her trip, and then we each bought our way there. And the next morning I woke up hungover and said, what the heck did I do? I just blew 5,000 grand on some woo-woo meditation retreat. But then I thought, well, I wasn't going to be a little bitch and come back and say, hey, I was drunk. Can we not take that back? So I went. I just decided to go. And that retreat, I learned how to meditate. And that's when everything changed for me.
Wow. I know I've spoke to a lot of people that have been there and some pretty cool, amazing things that happened. But yeah, give you an idea of kind of how the meditation started or how that affected you in your life moving forward.
Yeah. So the first day I got there, I thought I joined a cult. I really did. And I was like, what the heck, And but then Dispenza does something pretty interesting. He says, give me 7 days. You paid the money. You took the time off work. You're here. What are you going to lose? Just give me 7 days. And so I was like, okay, I can give him 7 days. And I did. And I just went all in for 7 days. I was wearing oxygen back then. And by day one, I was like, this is bullshit. This is crazy. These people are crazy. They must be putting drugs in the food or something, By day two, I'm starting to maybe think something's happening. But by day three, I got what they call in meditation. I was able to access what I call the loving presence, the divine, the great all, whatever your name for it is, right? And that moment, I saw everything. And it was just, you just knew instantly what you're here for. You're no longer a human working a job. You are a soul on this earth. You're a spiritual being having a human experience. And it changed the way I look at everything.
Wow.
Everything. And who can not? Like when you're getting frustrated at something, if you just stop and think, I'm a spiritual being, have a human experience, you're like, oh, that's right. Okay, we're okay now. It's just, but remembering that, right? That's what I'm still struggling with to this day is staying in that thought process, And I think that's what we need. That's what everybody needs to learn. I think I don't know if it's the lesson, but that's what I feel like if we just all stay there. This world would be beautiful.
Yeah.
Just beautiful.
Well, and for me, I had that. Mine was about 2.5 years ago that I really kind of think I had my first awakening, and mine came on from a large mushroom dose downstairs in my spare bedroom, and just fell off my bed. Went through the same thing. I felt like I was in the presence of what I'd call God. At that moment, being raised in an LDS religion, I had an understanding that religion was one thing, and spirituality and something that we're kind of experiencing is bigger. And for me, it's exactly what you said. When you realize that you're a spiritual being having a human experience, I've learned so many ways to change the way I'm thinking, to respond differently. I feel like my purpose, if you will, my life path is to feel emotions and to handle some of my karmic lessons through understanding emotions. We don't get to feel love, or we don't get to feel joy, or we don't get to feel greed or lust or jealousy. You don't get to feel those emotions in spirit. So for me, I believe that's kind of my purpose, and maybe a lot of people are going through that same thing. And I don't ever want to compare what I've gone through to somebody else, but I think there's a lot of people that are learning how to handle emotions right now. And it's definitely it's been a very crazy crash course all of a sudden. It feels like I'm drinking from a fire hose. But
yeah, you're exactly right. I totally agree with that. And that's what so that's what I want to do next. Is I want to write this book about something similar to that, because I've done mushroom ceremonies, I've done an ayahuasca ceremony, and I've done deep meditation now. And I can't do any of the ceremonies anymore because of the lung transplant that I had. But I can now. But I've experienced them, and I've seen what those feel like, and I think that all those places are the same place we're accessing, along with a few others, like near-death experiences. And when you're actually dying, you go to that space. I mean, there's all kind of hospice nurses that say that. And so I think it's the same place. It's the same access. And you can get there. I tell people, you can get there by a jet if you go to ceremony, an ayahuasca ceremony or a mushroom ceremony, or you can get there by foot and walk in meditation and get there. It's the same place, the same exact place. And I love the way you explain the emotions part.
Yeah, and like for me, when you talk about it being the same place, that's one thing that I've noticed. So I've grown my whole life. I'm 45 years old at the moment, and it wasn't until I was like 37, 38 that I'd ever done any type of drug outside of alcohol. And that was smoking THC for the first time back about 8 years ago. And my understanding, right, the plant medicines, whether it's THC, psilocybin, ayahuasca, DMT, I believe everything that was naturally put on this planet was here for the purpose of teaching us how to hold a higher frequency. And that's where, again, this is my perception, my story, but that's what I believe is happening, is we're learning how to hold a higher frequency as the Earth's vibration rises. And I study the Schumann resonance, and I watch that graph daily, and I see what's happening to the planet based on the collective consciousness, as well as some of the solar storms and the CMEs that are hitting the planet coming off our sun. And that's what I've come to feel, at least for me, through my experiences, right? THC is one level of frequency. I feel like I rise to a certain frequency when I'm using that substance. Mushrooms kind of amplifies that. It goes to a whole nother level, but still on the same path. And then DMT is kind of the blast off. That takes you straight into Christ consciousness and out of your body. And I believe that all three of them kind of lead to the exact same spot, just some get you there faster than others. And so it's, at least that's been my experience. I feel like enough of a large THC dose, I feel like the same as I do when I'm on a good mushroom dose. And you get enough mushrooms in you feel like you're on a DMT trip. And I feel like they're all the same spot, ultimately leading to kind of unlocking our pineal gland and opening our consciousness to something way greater than what we're commonly seeing. So
exactly, we're all saying the same thing.
Yeah,
it's so crazy. You can see, and people that don't know that they're even saying it. I'm the same way with you. You grew up in LDS and had this perspective of religion, and then later in life you're seeing it, and you probably weren't paying attention to all the Joe Dispenza's and that back when you were younger in your 30s and 40s. But then you have this experience, and all of a sudden you're saying the same thing that everybody else has been saying for so long. And people have been saying this in the 40s and 50s. And that's when you actually start looking for it and see it, like, holy crap, they've been saying this a long time ago. And so it's just, it gets really exciting for me. I have a hard time wanting to focus on anything else.
Yeah, no, it is. It gets you sucked into it.
Yeah, it is. And it's just like, wait. And so you have to kind of have this balance and actually enjoy this human experience, and not go up into the, la la land all the time. But you have to kind of find a cool balance. And I think that's the hard part for me is finding the balance. Because I either get all in on the human side and then get sucked in and feel like my spirituality is, or the other way. And so I'm trying to find that balance to live life.
I've been, again, I'll just kind of speak from my personal experiences, but I've noticed even on scrolling online, if I'm looking at certain content, depending on how I feel, and I'm trying to track and like document how I feel in my vibration, my frequency, but I feel like if I'm stuck to this 3D world and I'm thinking about things that are here in just kind of the human life, I see different content, or I see things that are more fear-based, or something that's people are struggling to understand what's going on. And then all of a sudden I'll have something, a shift in frequency. I feel like I'm kind of vibrating on a 5D level. The clouds look different to me. The way the sky looks different. All of a sudden I'm seeing different information online. And it's literally like I feel like I'm watching myself transfer between timelines, and that I'm moving up and down between 3D and 5D, and I think it's more fluid than a lot of people expect.
I never thought of it that way.
So I don't know. For me, like I keep having this thought, right? The shift is coming. We're shifting into a higher dimension, but I believe we're here in it now. I believe we're currently learning how to hold the vibration of a higher realm, and that's at least what I've noticed. I feel like I'm kind of moving up and down depending on what I absorb, how my day is, things that I let access my mind. If I'm stuck on a weird thought pattern, it changes what I see. So I feel like we're shifting all the time.
And we just got to get that 51% over, shifting over, so we can move up, like everybody's been saying. Everybody keeps saying that 51%. Like my friend Molly, and I heard it on another podcast, and people were saying that we're just working on getting it to the above the hump to get us over there. I wonder if that's what they're saying.
Yeah, see, and I not to correct you at all, because I think that's exactly what it is. I studied a lot in the book called The Law of One. And
me too. That was the first one I wrote. I've got a whole meditation story about that, but go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, and that's what led me to kind of my rabbit hole of going down this path. Was started reading about the Law of One, started reading about the experiences between Carla channeling Ra, and all of the information that was being shared. And I was so sucked into that I'd spend time at work if I had nothing going on. I'd pull up the website, and I was reading it from their website they have, which I think is lawofone.info. But everything's free there. I had ordered the books as well, because I like having paper books in my house. But as I started understanding that right, we're all one, we're all coming from one source.
Yeah.
And that there's been civilizations after civilizations that have done this, and it's never happened correctly on Earth yet. And we're living in a spot where we've shifted that service to others by 51%, right? You only have to hold 51% service to others, versus the negative side, where I think they said it's got to be over 90% of service to self, or kind of in that lower vibration negative mindset. So I think that humanity as a whole, as people here are starting to realize that they want something different. I think we're realizing that not only are we holding that higher vibration of just service to others, but I'm listening to more and more people wanting to go out and do things for friends, do things for neighbors. It's just I think there's just an internal calling right now that's being told that we're waking up to doing things a little bit better way.
I love that. Do you want me to tell you the story about the meditation that I had with Ra?
I'd love to. I'd love to hear it.
Oh, so cool. So it was right after the Dispenza retreat. And that same friend that told me to go to Dispenza was hosting a sound bath at the local YMCA in the hot tub. And so I went, of course, and I was just floating there, and just having this amazing time at the retreat. And I knew nothing of Ra. I had never heard of his name. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know who he was. And I'm floating there, and I was just got into meditation. And I was like, hey, if I've got a spirit guide or anything, could you show up and say hello? Just talk to him like that. And said that in meditation. I just laid there and everything, just enjoying the hot water, and then did meditation. And then I saw this vision. It was a vision of what I thought was an African man dressed in kind of like Egyptian clothes. And then I saw the side, and I was like, oh, hey, so this is my spirit guide. And he's like, yeah. I got the word that it was yeah. And I was like, well, what's your name? And he said, Ron. And I said, well, hey, Ron, nice to meet you. And I'm just having this conversation in meditation. And then I heard, no, raw, like raw egg. And I was like, oh, okay, raw, weird, whatever. Okay, thank you. And then when the meditation was over, and I told my friend, I was like, hey, I had this crazy meditation, and I described who I saw and what happened, and she started laughing. She goes, have you ever heard of the book Law of One with Ra? I was like, no. She goes, you should read that. And then that night I went and I Googled Ra, of course, and the picture that I saw, the first picture that popped up was a picture of Ra.
Wow. That's, and I have a hard time for myself trying to I guess, channel other people or other entities, and maybe I just haven't focused long enough. But I feel like sometimes I can get into my meditation, and I feel like I talk to myself, is what it sounds like it's just a higher version of myself. But
Yeah.
I would love the understanding, and maybe for the listeners that haven't heard of Law of One, I'll kind of do a quick description of it. But
Yeah, do it.
Ra is a collective consciousness from a civilization, I believe, on Saturn. I believe he's a fifth or sixth dimension being, is what his claim is. That he has understood and learned how humanity works and how things happen, and basically everything is one. We all return to source. And Ra was the entity that has kind of passed this information on through Earth. And you think back to the Egyptian time frame, the Mayans, Atlantis, there's a lot of times that we've had this information on this planet that has then been corrupted or used for the wrong good. And then it keeps getting removed from the planet. And so here we are now in this great awakening in our time, where we get to access that information. I think consciousness is rising. We're learning to understand things from a different perspective. And we're again hearing that message of we're all one. We're all source. We're all from one creator, and all living our own experiences. And when I get into that, like, I can go down the rabbit hole between all of the, they talk about the logos and the different areas of our sun, our central sun versus our local sun, different universes, and how everything was kind of orchestrated, and we're ultimately just source being experiencing itself in many different aspects. So I love it, because for me that tells me that every single person on this planet, their understanding of their life is true, it's correct, that everybody's experience is their own, ultimately just experiencing it for themselves to then return to source and share that with one grand central being of one. So it makes it hard for anybody to want to argue, and there's knowing that everybody's life path is perfectly correct for them, and it's not that it has to be the same for everybody. So it just kind of a little tangent there, but yeah, Ra's definitely an amazing entity that is helping us at this moment, I believe, understand what's happening and where we're going. So
yeah, so cool. It's just so cool. So do you meditate quite often, or
I do, yeah. So I went from understanding the Law of One, and then I was introduced, or I don't even know how I came across it, but the Gateway experience, the Hemisync meditations. And a lot of that kind of triggered some weird memories for me too. So as a kid, I was in third, fourth grade age group. My parents were divorced, and I remember being called out to a gifted and talented program, is what they stated. And a lot of different audio tones and things that they would do, and testing our hearing and different stuff. At least that's what it was presented to us as. But as I started listening to those tapes from the Gateway experience, I realized that I was very familiar with the tones and the sounds that were being used in those tapes. So there's a belief that I have that maybe there was more information or more studying being done of kids or people that had a different, I don't want to call it a gift, but a talent or an understanding of a higher dimension, or that there's something a little bit more than just our human life here. So I feel like there's a lot of times in my life that I've just been in certain scenarios where I've been, I guess, shown that I've kind of had this information all along, but just now slowly starting to remember it. So, but yeah, the meditations through the Gateway experience has taught me how to go to out-of-body times, mind awake, body asleep, allowing me to astral travel and leave my body on purpose. I do that every night, and I'm aware of it. And it's just been a lot of fun. But yeah, getting into these very deep meditative states, I've been able to connect with again, like I say, my higher self is what I think of it, a bigger version of me. But getting into asking mental questions, what's coming in my life, what do I need to be prepared for, which a lot of that led me to my vacation in Hawaii. I had this weird feeling or an understanding that I was supposed to be in Maui during April 6th, and spend a 2-week time frame by myself in Maui, just meditating and kind of figuring out who I was, which has led to this whole current time. I was working a job that I was no longer happy at. Things weren't going good. It felt like everything in my life was shifting, and I just needed some time to kind of ground and figure out what was going on. And that all kind of came to during my 10 days in Maui. But there was a moment on April 6th that was pretty intense for me. I had just a really, I call them downloads, but just a very intense download where I felt like I was shown a lot of things in my life, a lot of karmic past that had been handled, lessons that had been learned. So all of that's just come through meditation and just kind of really quieting the mind and listening. So,
yeah, exactly. And it's happening to a lot of people, like you said. The same exact thing with different things. It's so amazing. It's just the coolest thing ever. And when we listen, and I think when you say you think you're just talking to yourself, no, you are talking to yourself. You're talking to your higher self, just like you said.
Yeah.
Your higher light being. People call it all different things. And there's so much work to be done. The scientists are even saying it now. There's certain things we can do. We're all just trying to get on the same language now and use the same terms so that we can all agree what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So people don't think they're going crazy. I mean, what are you supposed to, for what the story you told me in my story, if I went to a shrink and said, hey, I think I'm schizophrenic or something's wrong with me, and they're going to say, well, what's happening? And you're going to say, well, I see and hear these things when do you hear them? When I meditate. Yeah. What are you going to do, get a gold star? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're not crazy. We're not crazy. It's not that at all. And we're people that are in their late 40s and 50s and 60s that have lived these lives, a productive life, whatever. So we're not crazy. This is really happening.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, and it's fun, and it's exciting. But then all the crazy stuff happening in the world, it's easy to get dragged into that. And you just got to stop. Don't stop. Don't let yourself get dragged into it. But then there's this fine balance of when do I step in and help? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Am I just supposed to observe? At what point do I really need to step in and help? And I've kind of come to the realization that if it's put in front of me, it's meant for me to do. Mm-hmm. And if everybody did that, we'd be good.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's one thing that I've found for myself. Again, I track patterns, and I like to follow along things that are happening consistently. And I get that. Like, if I keep getting reminded of something or I keep hearing something over and over, I'm like, now I don't question it. This is happening for a reason. This is now something I need to pay attention to and stop second guessing myself. It's unreal when you just stop second guessing. So
exactly. And you don't realize how much you're doing it.
Yeah.
You have no idea how much you're doing it until you start paying attention to it.
So, quick question, because you had mentioned you've done ayahuasca. Is that an experience that you're kind of sharing some of your time? I've never had the opportunity for that. Like I've said, I've done mushrooms, I've had THC, I've had DMT, the NN-DMT, but ayahuasca is something I've been interested in, and it's one of those things too. When things start becoming more present in my future, or in my current time, my reality, then I'm like, okay, now I just start paying attention. And it's been a week of people mentioning ayahuasca, so I'm like, well, it's time to start paying attention because it's showing up in my life. So, how was your experience?
Oh, ayahuasca was a friend of mine did it at a legal church in California. It's legal to have, and so we were able to do it here in the States legally. And it was, it was different. I think everybody experiences it so different. The church was amazing, the people and things, but the actual experience with ayahuasca was so different for everybody that I talked to. It was just so different. And so your experience is just it's going to be different than anybody else's. It's going to be, based on your life, just like we're all here. But my experience was, this was before the lung transplant, and there were things that were heavy, really heavy for me. And I kind of wish they would have, and maybe they did and I missed it, but I wish I would have known that first experience with ayahuasca is this dark heaviness. And my friend who went with me, she saw what was the bad things that were happening. There was violent, bad things happening. They weren't exactly happening to her, but they were happening around her. She saw. And then she got to this beautiful place, right? Well, I didn't see those things. I just felt this heaviness. It was like, have you ever gone to somewhere and you're like, something bad is here, and I don't want to deal with it, and I'm out, That was a feeling I just couldn't get over, and it was just a very uncomfortable feeling for me. I was like, I don't like this. I don't want to be here. Something is really terrible happening. And it just took me forever to get through that. And then, and surrender to it. That's my biggest thing, is learning to surrender. And I do that with the same thing with mushrooms. But once I was like, okay, I can't do anything about this heaviness. And I surrendered, then beautiful. Then I had this beautiful experience of, of lessons and of teachings, that in my life that, like I was shown that, things about my husband that, he's been, he needed some support, and my kids, and even shown things where I've done, were you really honest there, Jennifer? No, and it was just lots of teachings, and it was beautiful, and so then the second day, So that happened the very first day, and it was a 2-day deal. And then the second day, I was like, I didn't want to do the heaviness. I couldn't get over the heaviness, so I skipped the second day. But I've had other friends who've continued to go and are just having amazing experiences. But it's not my journey. It's not my. I mean, I did what I was there to do, and I got a beautiful message from a about my lungs. It's like, hey, Jennifer, you're all about giving people stuff, because I was debating on whether I was going to do the lung transplant or not. And I got the clear message in an ayahuasca journey that you will and you should, along with all the other beautiful things that happen. And I also got a beautiful message regarding, my beliefs about other religions. I had this deep underlying belief that Muslims were bad, And no, I was sitting next to a Sufi Muslim who gave me the most beautiful unconditional love. And so it just showed me that all the religions are good. There were so many things. It goes on and on so much that you can't really, you have to write it down to remember, but it's beautiful. I can't do it again. I don't know if I would do it again now. I think it was just maybe as I grow and spirituality, but it's just intense for me. But that's me. Other people, it's beautiful.
No, and that's I've only done several mushroom experiences, and I, like you said, where it kind of starts out dark and heavy. I've always thought that psychedelics are just a 1,000-hour crash course of therapy in one night.
Yeah.
You have to sit face to face with everything that no longer serves you. You have to answer to all of the things that you've lied to yourself about, or things that you've allowed in your life that are no longer good.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that's what anybody would call a bad trip. That's just somebody that had to deal with some of the things that they've not been able to process in their conscious mind. So.
Exactly. That's perfectly said.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love how you said that. Wow.
And so, like for me, cool. it feels like each of my experiences kind of add to each other. I'm never revisiting the same space, because it's like I'm doing the work. I'm going through the they call it the dark night of the soul, right? We're going through the junk. We're digging through the emotions and dealing with all the traumas that we've had in our life. And I think when those have been properly handled, and we think about them, and we talk about them, we process those emotions, it makes for a lot of easier experience as we go. Which kind of reminds me, so I had an experience over this weekend. I grew my own supply of those mushrooms for a little while, and it's not something that is needed or allowed here in the States, in my state, but in Utah I can have everything up to the fruiting body of the mushroom. So I learned how to do mycology pretty well. I learned how to study it and kind of grow mycelium and understood that, and then passed those off to somebody that could grow them in their state, so everything was legal. But I had just a small supply of my own grows that I had left in my safe. And I'm finishing a basement remodel, so things got moved around today, and I realized I had a little bit left. And that's something I chose to do Friday night. I kind of went on my own solo journey here. The house is I'm by myself. The house is empty, and family's in Disneyland this weekend. So I sat down with myself and just thought, that's time to see if there's anything new to work on. And it was one of the most amazing, kind of just blissful, peaceful, loving type experiences where, and not to think that I've got everything in my life solved, but I got a chance to really just kind of sit there and it was one of those things where I felt like every moment that I was shown, I was kind of showing like a level up moment. Like, this is where you're at now. Ground yourself in this energy. Feel okay. Know that you're moving up, and moving up in my space of like understanding dimensions. Because I made the intention. I wanted to go meet my higher self. I wanted to sit face to face with me, with my soul, and learn what's next. And there was a moment where it felt like I was slowly being shown a higher dimension, and then a higher dimension, and a little bit higher, and ultimately I watched myself leave my body. I had a full out-of-body experience. I knew there was energies protecting my body as I was leaving, and just had one of the most blissful, peaceful experiences where it just felt like my higher self kind of showed me what's coming for myself. And it was just pure love and peace. So pretty cool. But yeah, I would say for anybody that's gone through that path or has had an experience where it wasn't the most peaceful or the most blissful experience, just know that's part of the journey. That's part of what we have to do in order to continue to rise our frequency and grow and learn is deal with the stuff that's hanging over our head. So
wow, that is so beautiful. That is so beautiful. What a cool thing. So how much do you take at a time usually?
Well, so, and again, I learned everything just from reading online. Paul Stamets, a big psychonaut that kind of talks about things. He always talks about doing 5 grams dried mushrooms in a dark room with a blindfold. Um,
Yeah.
that's a lot for me, and more so I
Yeah.
think because the strain that I chose to use is a very potent strain. So, three
Yeah.
grams is what my dose was, and it was.
Yeah.
Yep, I take it in a certain way that I don't have to deal with the stomach ache or the nausea. I don't have to taste it. So I'll grind it to a powder, soak it in lemon juice, and then take it like a little lemon shot and filter out the material. So I'm just taking just a little shot of lemon juice is what it tastes like, and it definitely gets rid of all the bad taste of it and the parts that aren't fun. So I guess over time you learn how to do what's best for you. But
That is
yeah.
awesome. Yeah, no, they're really interesting, and even the microdosing. Have you noticed that? Because I used to before my transplant, I would do journeys like once every 2 or 3 months usually, but sometimes with my husband, sometimes by myself, and I noticed that if I take a microdose, I can often get to that space pretty quick,
Wow.
and be a little more coherent too. And so, but I got to where I had to be careful with it because there's sometimes I was like, okay, here I am in Hawaii. We were in Maui. I'm going to take a little microdose and just chill, and just be happy. No, we're going right. We're going in. It's like don't mess with the mushrooms. You think you're going to have a nice little happy trip like you did last time, and now you're going. We're going to do some work. So there's been at least 2 occasions where that's happened to me where I'm like, okay, I need to respect the medicine. If I'm going to take something, I need to be ready to either learn a lesson or have a nice. And so you got to be careful with you have one of those nice, beautiful, happy journeys, and then you think, okay, you're good. No, you're not good. You're not good. You're going to get that's kind of been my experience. But
Yeah.
it may who knows what it is. It might be just for me because I had some cockiness or arrogantness going on or something. I think it just depends on where you are in your life and your journey.
Yeah, well, and I've had this thought when I had my first ego death, and kind of just feeling like I was getting rid of parts of me that were no longer needed, and I kind of chased that thought for a while that I just need to continue to have these ego deaths. I need to continue to kind of take a large enough dose that I would eventually forget who I was, and the whole new me would be born. And
Yeah.
and I've learned that that was my wrong direction. I learned now I
Yeah.
need to integrate my ego with my higher self. That it's still a
Yeah.
necessary part of me. It's just I need to learn how to put it in check a little bit better. So,
Yeah. It's
but so
oh my gosh, this journey is so fun, but so hard at the same time.
yeah. Well, that's the truth. Like I said, for a long time, I thought I was going to just everything was going to turn into lights and rainbows, and we were going to move into this higher dimension and leave this physical Earth behind, and life would be amazing. And that's, I guess, for me, an additional awakening, a part of realizing that we still have work to do. We still have a planet to fix, and there's just a
Yeah.
lot of people that are here that are kind of on the same path right now. So
Yeah. So we just gotta know each other and get on the same language
yeah,
and be and understand it. I think that everybody's got a little piece of it. Even the people that we consider the bad people, they have a piece need to contribute, and we're all going down this thing, and we think we're right, and we're just miscommunicating, and we all see that happen in our everyday lives already. I mean, it's a constant battle. It's like in business, me and my husband own a business together. Sometimes when me and my husband disagree, I'm like, wait, are we even talking about the same thing? I'm talking about this, this, and this. It's like, oh, no, I was talking about this, this, and this. And then once we get on the same page, boom, we're good. And I think I can't help but think that's something that's happening today because, like, even a lot of the, like, super Christians that want to put me down for believing in chakras or not believing in their God exactly the way they do, when I go to their church and I feel things, they're accessing the same space. We're just arguing over the wrong things.
mm-hmm.
And that's what we need to do is just get everybody on the same language.
No, and I think that would be the ideal shift. I think that's what's happening, and I've referenced this before, but I'm watching a TV series at home with my family. It's called Love on the Spectrum, and idea it's right. There's high functioning autistic adults that are learning how to date or going through the dating scene, but I've enjoyed watching it not for the content of what they're doing or they're going on a date, but the way they communicate. They are so open and so honest, and there's nothing held back. And they understand what they want. They understand how they feel. They like or don't like something. They're not scared to tell somebody. And I'm thinking that would be the ideal way to communicate. Just say what you need, say what you want, say what you mean, and don't let people try to guess what's on your head or in your mind. It would be ideal. So, I look at some of those things as definitely not a disability. I look at those as an ability. Those are people that have exactly what I would love to learn how to do, is communicate better. So.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I love it. I could talk this like all day long.
No, and my next question I would like to ask you. So I've kind of feel like I've been shown, if you will, my own path or my own purpose within my own awakening, learning how to do things for myself. But there's a feeling right now that, again, this whole idea with the podcast, the TikTok page, everything has gone really big, really fast. And it all started from me stating that I made a post that I quit my job, I was going to start a business for myself, and I was scared. And that was honestly the context behind that video. Was I had quit my job and went back to the car business 3 times in 2 years. And it felt good when I came back for a few months, and then you kind of settle into the same energy and realize that it was the same thing that I left before. And I had another shift in kind of my awareness and realized that my body was asking for something different. My soul was really stepping in, saying, if you're not going to leave on your own, we're going to force you to leave. It was kind of the feeling that it had. And I've kind of fast forward, right? It's been a month now since I've last had my job, and my purpose, I believe, has just opened up. Not only just putting content online and talking to people, but helping unite the world, helping unite people, sharing stories like this, being a part of other people's lives. And you had mentioned, with religion, even just understanding that you love Muslims. I had a message when the first week when my post first went out that a man stated, and he was from another country, but he said, with this coming from a Muslim, he said, God be with you. And that was his text that he sent me. And
I got killed. And
I'm thinking there's way bigger than just religion. This is not people, worshiping a certain god or an entity. This is the work of Source and the Creator bringing its population of the planet together. Yeah. So I know this is way bigger than me, but that's kind of what I thought, is this might be my ability, my purpose, my kind of current journey, if you will, is to just be that connecting voice to bring us all together in one space. And I know I'm just a tool in the hand of God. And I say God meaning, Source, Creator. I know that was something I asked for. I said, just show me a way to be helpful. And I've shared that with my wife. I've always felt that I was meant to do something big, but in my mind, it was a business. It was something that just created a large income. But this is way bigger than a job. This is way bigger than an income.
Exactly.
And it's pretty cool. But so for you, have you kind of identified, or do you have an idea of what your kind of goal or your purpose is in the world and what you're working towards?
What a great question. Wow. So cool. So after my 23 dispenser retreat, I've been saying I've been wanting out of the family business that me and my husband owned for a while. And then I had this lung thing going on. And so I kept trying to push to get out, and finally was able to get out August of 25. And I took a road trip. My husband, I told him I wanted to go on a road trip, and I wanted to decide whether I was going to have this lung transplant or not. Because, I didn't have much time left. And I knew that it was, that these lungs weren't going to live. And so I thought, well, I'm done. I was frustrated. But anyway, so I went on this road trip and decided I was going to have the lung transplant, and had the lung transplant in February. But I decided, I'm no longer going to be in the family business, and so we've got to, either we're going to find someone to replace me, or we're going to shut it. And we've decided that. And I'm going to write a book. I've written my first book already. It's completed. Redneck to Awakening should be out mid-July. And then my second one that I don't have a name for will be out, after that. It's going to be a lot of research. But yeah, I'm also going to do, because I was a criminal defense investigator for 10 years and an 911 dispatcher for 10 years. So I'm going to do an investigative report and interview people along the way, and put it, do some outreach about what's going on like you are. And I'm also planning, and it's called Talk to Me About Love. I'm on all the socials. I haven't done anything since the transplant because I've just been recovering lately. But then I'm going to do some event work for some friends of mine that are healers, that are spiritual healers, that with moving these emotions and learning people to recognize them, and they do them hands-on. And I've got a lot of friends that do that. But their problem is they don't like doing the logistics of it all. They're the creators, Well, logistics is my thing. That's like my ace in the hole. If you want to know how to get to Perryville to Falls Pass back to King Salmon in Alaska, using these little cubs and boats and stuff, I'm the one that can get you there. So any of this other stuff, the logistics stuff in the States, seems like piece of cake compared to Alaska. So that's kind of where I know that's where I'm supposed to help humanity, and I've heard that in meditations and things like that. So that's my next goal, and to help someone. Now that I'm retired, there may be other opportunities for me to help others. Like you or like my other friends. Step in and help them with what they're doing, because some of you guys speak better than others and can push the message out more articulate than a redneck like me. I like to write instead of speak in public. But so yeah, that's kind of what I'm up to.
Nice. Well, and again, I feel like I'm just kind of learning as I go. I started everything with not understanding social media. There was literally 212 followers on my TikTok page the day I posted that first video, and today it's coming close to 32,000 followers.
Cool.
It's just grown, but it like you said, it was attracted by people that wanted the message, and realizing that there's a lot of people that felt lonely and that were in this by themselves, and so that was more of kind of the ideas. Yep.
It's the authenticity that they love. That's what it is. That's what I've determined, is that your authenticity. If you just be yourself, just throw it out there. Mm-hmm. That's what people are craving, and that's what you put on that first video.
Yeah.
It was just you. There was no doubt it was just you.
And that's kind of what I've wanted to continue. And I know there's a lot of people that would like a little bit higher quality recordings, which I've just recently done. I bought a new microphone that's now attached to my computer, and it's supposedly giving us better audio. So today's the second call with this new microphone. So I'm excited to hear the differences once I get this published. But kind of just learning as I go, learning how to use social media, learning how to get everybody's information out there, and also to kind of protect the community, because I feel like it's not that we have people doing anything out there that's harmful, but I feel like to give the safe space. And I know I would start a lot of my conversations telling people, I know I'm crazy, but you got to hear this out. And so realizing that there's a lot of things that people want to talk about, or things that they're experiencing that make them feel crazy. We're not crazy. We're going through something that's hard to quantify. It's hard to put a physical, tangible item to something when it's all in your head, or it's a perception of things. So
it's so good. It's so fun. I mean, what a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. It's so awesome.
I still have this hope that, I've told my wife before, I said, I feel like one day we're going to look up in the sky, and we're going to see everything open up, and we're going to see more of the universe. We're just feeling like there's this layer of a blinder, if you will, and we'll call it the veil, right? The veil of forgetfulness is us forgetting where we came from and who we are. But I feel like we're kind of being veiled, and in my understanding is, right, in the frequency we're holding to hold this 3D Earth, that's what we're limited to seeing. But as we kind of rise the frequency, and the collective continues to increase in their knowledge and their understanding and service to others, I feel like the frequency of a higher realm, of a higher dimension, is going to open up to us. And I like to simplify things, because I use analogies, right? Every way the Bible taught, I feel like that's just helps relate people to what you're thinking and where they're at in their moment. But I like using the analogy of like the radio. And in Utah, if you want to listen to country music, you turn it to 93.3 FM, and that's a country channel. And if you want to listen to hip hop or rap or R&B, it's 97.1 FM, right? And the reality of it is those two radio stations are playing simultaneously, all at the same time, all across this area, and it's just a matter of what channel you're tuned into. And so I think that's what we're doing. We're tuning our frequencies to a higher dimension. We're changing what we're listening to. I get a lot of ringing in my ears, and I've learned it's not tinnitus. It's not a medical problem. It's me accessing a higher space and hearing it. So I know a lot of people are going through that as well. But have you experienced what a lot of people are calling the ascension symptoms, and just kind of changes in your body, ringing in your ears, anything like that?
I get the chill. I get chills whenever I feel truth. When I hear truth, I get the ringing in the ears on occasion. Those are the two that I usually get. It's so hard for me right now, just because I'm on so many meds with the transplant that I'm still trying to adjust to, and so it's hard. It's been harder, but I've been slowly been able to get back. I mean, we're going on only just 4 months, and so it's been a wild ride. And I know other people. I've heard of others having it, but those are the only two that I've experienced recently.
Gotcha. Yes, and I get those same things when I call them soul confirmations. Like when my soul is telling me that something's true, I feel it in my body.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I love the soul confirmations. I mean, and you can get them just. I get them a lot talking, and it's talking to people. That was another thing I was going to ask you because you're good at I wonder if we could ever get a number of people that believe like that. Like, they have an estimate of how many Muslims there are in the world and how many Christians. Mm-hmm. I wonder if we could get an estimate of how many awakened, or what would you even call it, or awakening, or knowing, or, what would you call this thing that we're experiencing?
And I think the awakening is probably the best way to explain it, and like I just use kind of other people's reference, but the great awakening of humanity is kind of what I keep hearing. But I think there's a lot of people right now that are still in that undecided, not quite sure what's happening mode. And I don't know if they'd know how to answer that question if it was asked today.
Yeah.
So.
But with the technology, we should be able to get a good number on that. But then how do you get the language behind it to articulate it? And that's what we're struggling with. Mm-hmm. And I think, and I'm surely, that's something we're all going to be working on. I think all of us have this mission to do, and it's going to be cool to see all the new things developing and what's happening. And I'm excited to see it. And even my kids, I have 3 kids, and they are just totally different kids than I was. They have a knowing of things that I'm just now learning, so they know it coming in, mm-hmm. Already. It's almost like I forget the gal's name, the older gal that did she talked about the enforcements, the people coming in. I'm terrible with names.
Is it Dolores Cannon?
Dolores Cannon.
Yeah.
She talked about the younger generations coming in, and I believe that because my son, who was 18, I took him to a dispensa. And he loved the meditations, and now he can meditate. He's 18, and he meditates the whole surgery out. That I had 4 hours of surgery. He was in meditation the whole time. And some of the things that come out of his mouth are the same things that my 40, 50, 60-year-old friends are saying, and he doesn't know any of that. And the same thing with my middle daughter. You're like, and my oldest daughter. You talk about queen of emotions. Like she tells me exactly how she feels. She's been my biggest teacher. All my kids have been my biggest teacher, showing me things. And it's just amazing to see this next generation coming up and what we're going to do and how things are going to be changed for me and you in 20 years or 30 years. I think it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, I think there's the new generation of kids and people being born in the world are kind of just coming in already awake. My grandchild, he's 2 years old, and his ability to understand emotions, to understand language, to understand what he needs, what he wants, as well as just having conversations that don't seem natural for a 2-year-old is unreal. You see videos of kids that are just amazing pianists and playing the piano to expert level. And it's like, how did you even have the time to study that? But that's my belief, is that we have souls coming into this world that are remembering their past lives, that are remembering some of their abilities and their talents, and they're coming into these current lives bringing that with them. And I think that's what's needed so we can continue to kind of progress this growth, and we're not limited to restarting or re-remembering from the beginning. We've got a whole wave of beings and souls that are coming in fully aware and remembering what's the purpose.
Exactly. And then imagine if we could study that and put some numbers on it and convince others it's really happening. That's when we start. I could just see things moving about, and that's what I've been listening to lately, is all these papers and scientists that are actually studying some of this, and it's just taking forever to get out. All these podcasts are posting some really good stuff mm-hmm. that have been proven papers of this, actually, the consciousness and this. I mean, so many, and I write them down, for the new book so I can research it and put it out there. But it's really fascinating because some of my, a lot of my scientist friends who are agnostic are even starting to come around and see it. It's a beautiful thing. I'm excited to be here. Yeah. Really excited to be here.
Well, and I don't have all the details, but I was reading about a study that I believe it was being done at Harvard University. And they were putting people onto a 1-hour drip of DMT. And DMT is a very fast-lived molecule in the body, and most of the time our body wears it out and uses it within 5 to 10 minutes. But having these people put into that state for over an hour, they were then documenting the space in their reality that they were visiting, and realizing that they're mapping the DMT world. They're realizing that it's a location that many people are going to, and that they're proving through science and through this study that the space is the same no matter who shows up, and that it's not just some random weird spot that you go mentally when you take a big dose and your consciousness creates some weird reality. It's common for everybody, and people they're now almost mapping it out like it's a location that we get to go visit. So, and I agree. For me, that's just proof that we are just living in a certain vibration, that we're in a certain dimension, and as we continue to rise, that we'll be opened up to seeing other things. So I think at that point, all things are optional. Everything's a possibility now.
It's so exciting. Yeah. What a great time to be alive.
So I'd say, hurry up and get here. I'm ready. I want to stop paying bills.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think it's all part of the deal. I really do. I think it's all part of the experience. But we'll see. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. Just got to enjoy every moment is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Every moment.
And that's what it is. I think for me, that's been my lesson just recently, is learning how to be more present and just being in the current moment and not thinking about the future, not worrying about stuff in the past. And realizing that I've made mistakes in my life. I can't solve those problems, but I can correct who I am and work better moving forward. And then same thing, like kind of getting rid of anxiety and getting rid of the fear of the future, and just knowing that every moment is what's important. And it's as dumb as the saying is and how repetitive it is, right? It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And I'm finally starting to live my journey, is what it seems like. And it sounds like a lot of people are on that same path, finally starting to pay attention to the day-to-day things versus the living for the weekend or living for the next vacation. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's fun to plan that stuff, you know, and we have to do some of that, but it's also, you know, just being in the moment. It's just a beautiful thing, because it's so easy to get out of it. It's so easy to get out of the moment.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to ask my favorite question, and kind of as we wrap things up, but knowing what you've gone through your meditations, the Joe Dispenza retreats, kind of understanding plant medicine and where you're at in life, what advice would you like to share with our listeners if they would find themselves in a similar situation as you? Like, how do they move forward in life, and what would you help them to understand and expect?
Oh, I guess the two biggest things is to just slow down and go within and trust yourself. And then two, know that you're not crazy. Yeah. If you can do those two things, you're golden. That's all you got to do, you know. And I think it's easy. It's very easy for us to get out of those two things. And once I go back to that, I'm like, okay, all right, I know what I'm doing now, Jennifer, and I can reset and go. So I think it's going to be beautiful. And there's all kinds of us to reach out to. There's lots of podcasts to listen to, people that are going through the same thing. And so just look for it. You got to find community. Mm-hmm. I think I've decided that I either need to be around people that are on the same journey as me, or I need to be by myself, because it's not like all the time, but I need to at least have, at least 60-40 on that deal. Mm. Because if not, it's easy for me to lose myself.
No, I think that's great advice, because, I definitely found myself in those same shoes. So wondering if I was going down the right path or if I should do things alone. But it's definitely a lot better with community. It's a lot easier. But I would say, be cautious. Find the right community. Because there's a lot of people out there that would be willing to take advantage of people if the opportunity was there. And there's a lot of people out there that are doing things because it's what's right to do and it feels good. So definitely use your judgment. Right. So
I love that. Yeah.
Right. Well, I truly appreciate your time today, and I'd love to continue to kind of chat and get to know you a little bit more as we go through this. And if there's anything that I can do as well, please reach out and let me know. And
for sure, for sure. I'd love to talk more about you. I think there's lots of cool things we could all do together too in community. I've got a couple ideas I'd love to visit with you about later. Yeah, no, and kind of I'll share some information as we're talking, but we've created a support group or kind of a community group on Facebook. And it's just The Awakened Stranger. So that's a space where anybody can join, and we're just kind of keeping it. We got moderators that are helping keeping the content clean and realizing that everybody that's there is for the right purpose. We're not getting a bunch of spam or anybody kind of just with negative comments.
But yeah, the Awakened Stranger on Facebook is our support group. And then
Cool.
I've kind of duplicated everything from TikTok onto Instagram just for repetition and reaching more people. But they've also allowed us to connect more links to my Instagram page. And again, that's the Awakened Stranger. But that has links to our Spotify for the podcast, as well as my Google Calendar. So anybody that would like to call in and share an episode and share their life experiences, you can link to that Google Calendar. That creates a time slot that just is my time zone here, Mountain Standard Time. So I've got it arranged right now to where once the day has slotted 3 bookings or 3 call slots, then it removes the rest of the day from the calendar. So it gives me some free time. I'm still doing a whole basement remodel and working on things for myself. And so keeps my time a little bit free there, but then allows us to have 3 of these recorded episodes a day. And so, yeah, it's on Spotify, it's on Amazon Music, it's now being copied onto YouTube as well. So anybody has access to it kind of on all platforms possible. And then the support group through Facebook, kind of duplicating the TikTok post through Instagram. But we're trying to make it just as easy as possible for people to reach out and connect. And I would love to have people continue to schedule their time slots and just share their stories, because that's what it's about, I think, is just us understanding that we're not in this alone, and everybody's come from different parts of their life. They've all gone through different experiences, but we're all here in the same space together. So it's, like I said, I think I'm just here.
I love that idea.
So.
Yeah, I love that idea, because you could hear back from other people, get other people back on it if you wanted to, hear back from them. That's so cool. I love that idea.
So
that's beautiful. Yeah, right on.
It's just a learning process for me. Just go as I go and see what happens, and trying to just be in the present moment. So I appreciate you for helping remind me that and showing me some of the things that you've gone through in your life. So
yeah, no, it was a joy visiting with you. I look forward to seeing what happens and where it goes from here for sure.
Nice. Okay, well, let's stay in touch, and I'll reach out here and shortly. Maybe we'll do a follow-up to this episode.
Sounds good.
Okay, well, have a great day.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.